The record for G-forces endured by a person is an incredible 3-digit figure. Hello, science jokers. Today we'll dive into G-forces, a topic everyone mentions but few truly understand. It has major implications. For instance, how many G's can a person take before passing out? Or even, do you think a person can actually die just because of G-forces? Did you know G-force varies by the direction it's applied? Or how many G's do you think you can withstand at an amusement park? Well, stick around and watch the video and I'll tell you all about it. Let's get started. First, G-force is often misunderstood. Because when we talk about G-force, we're talking about accelerations. What happens is that we've normalized it, since when we talk about G-force, we're talking about an acceleration multiplied by the mass of the object we're referring to. For example, if I'm here experiencing 1G, Earth pushes me down with its acceleration. Since we're talking about me, we assume my mass, about 70 kilos, is already included. And so that's the force of 1G. 2G's therefore would be twice the force of your weight, right? But what does 0G mean? Or even worse, minus 1G. 0G refers to any environment where there is no force at all. For example, on the International Space Station, there are 0 Gs. Why? Because the centrifugal force astronauts feel while spinning is balanced. The one that pushes them outward, with the force of gravity that pushes them inward. So since they are equal, they cancel each other out and it's equal to 0. Therefore, that's 0G. Look, so you understand when it's 0G. Basically, if you put a weight under you and weigh yourself, if the scale shows 0, it doesn't show anything. You're at 0G, okay? If it shows exactly your weight, then you're at 1G. And why are freefall movements 0G? If you're accelerating, Earth is causing it. I'll share some things now and explain at the end of the video. Look, a few months ago, a video went viral where there were some people inside a Tesla, which is an electric car that has a lot of acceleration. And what they did was put a phone. They were in the back seat. They grabbed a phone and accelerated a lot in such a way that the phone is ripped out of the person's hand and gets stuck to the seat. Look, I'll let you see it. Holy moly. Holy. That's because inside the car, a strong G-force was felt, so you can understand what happened. It's Newton's first law, the law of inertia. It means an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted on by an external force. So the phone was still, the car seat accelerated, but the phone stayed still until the car seat touched it, and the car seat pushed the phone forward. If we look at it from the phone's perspective, the phone is simply still, and suddenly it feels the seat stick to it and start pushing it forward very quickly. When the car stops accelerating, the phone falls because it won't keep accelerating for 10 seconds. Otherwise, it would reach 1,000 kilometers per hour, and obviously that's impossible. And what would happen if we're going in a car at 100 kilometers per hour? The speed is constant, it's not changing. And we leave the phone in the same situation as in the Tesla. If you let go, nothing will happen. The phone will just fall. Why doesn't it stay on the seat? It's due to the law of inertia, or Newton's first law. Because since both the car and the phone are already going at 100 kilometers per hour, the car seat isn't going to push the phone to make it go 100 kilometers per hour because the phone is already going at 100 kilometers per hour. In the video's case, those inside the car experienced horizontal G-forces because the force was going perpendicular to the spine. In other words, in that case, the force was pushing them backward. They were being pushed against the seat. In fact, this type of force, which makes us stick to the seat, is much more tolerable for humans. If you're driving 100 kilometers per hour and hit the brakes, inertia throws you forward. You're driving 100 kilometers per hour, the brakes stop the car, but you keep moving at that speed. So that G-force is much harder for humans to withstand, but it's simply because of a biological issue with the blood in the eyes. Well then, the million-dollar question, how much G-force can a person withstand before passing out? Or, as I've already told you, dying? Well, it's actually complicated to answer, but I'll answer it for you, don't worry. For example, if someone slaps you in the face, this will make you withstand force in certain areas of your face. There's a lot of G-force, very high. What happens is that it's in a very localized area and for a very, very short period of time, so this won't do you any harm. Generally, right? But, however, enduring G-forces of lower intensity, but for a longer period of time, can be deadly. So here's the complication. It's not really 100% accurate, but you can get some approximate values, even if it's hard to believe. An experiment was conducted with volunteers, yes, volunteers, who participated in the experiment. To determine how much G-force a person can withstand, the following conclusion was reached. You can handle 20 G for under 10 seconds, 10 G for 1 minute, and 6 G for 6 minutes without issue. All these G-forces are horizontal, the ones applied on the axis perpendicular to the spine. The spine moves upward because these G-forces act forward or backward. The record for G-forces endured by a person is an incredible 3-digit number. 214 G plus, these G-forces pushed you forward. Supposedly, those are bad for your blood vessels. Honestly, it's crazy. It was in an accident, in a collision, and the pilot's name was Kenny Brack, who was a professional. Well, you might be wondering, what about vertical Gs? Why hasn't he said anything about them? The vertical ones, as you might guess, are applied in the same direction as the spine, up or down. And they're mostly experienced by fighter pilots, well, by pilots of airplanes in general. Imagine you're piloting a plane, you're going at 1,000 kilometers per hour. Imagine you grab the controls and pull them toward you really hard. What's going to happen is that the plane is going to try to do a loop. Due to the first law of inertia, you'll want to keep moving straight, but you can't because the seat has already turned. So it's going to be pushing you upward, so you won't be able to keep following the inertia you had. And you're forced to turn because the seat already turned, and you'll feel a brutal force downward, like being pressed into the seat. Well, it's important to say one thing. When I say down, I mean down from your butt, okay? Because if not, seriously, because you could be in a fighter jet upside down, right? You could be going upside down. If you try another loop, you'll feel a downward force from your butt. But what is really going to be up from the earth towards the sky? So every time I say down, I'm going to refer to down towards your seat. In fact, there are pilots so extremely skilled that they are able to fill a glass of water while they're making a turn, going upside down, and all of that. Because what they're doing is maintaining 1 G throughout the entire turn, in such a way that it's as if they're just pouring the water, practically. Sitting at home. Here, Coriolis doesn't come into play, nor does the radius the plane is tracing, okay? It's extremely big, so it's practically negligible. Well, there are positive G-forces and negative G-forces when we're talking about vertical G-forces. Positive G-forces make the blood go to your feet, while negative G-forces make the blood go to your head. But what about this one? What does it say about blood? This brings up the very important topic I just mentioned about blood. Imagine you're in a plane and you're going to make a turn in such a way that you're going to experience G-forces. Positive G-forces, okay? As I mentioned, the blood will flow to your feet, and I'll explain why. Due to Newton's first law, the law of inertia, it's going to follow the path it was on, but it won't be able to keep going in a straight line, obviously, because we're taking a curve. So it's going to build up at the bottom of your feet, and what this is going to do is that little by little you'll start to see worse. Until there's going to come a moment when you'll get dizzy, and if you keep going like that, there's going to come a moment when you'll kick the bucket. Just so you know, a trained pilot, at least theoretically, can handle 9 positive Gs which force blood to your feet. But I spoke with a pilot of an F-16 at an air show I went to last year in Albacete. The American pilot said he had endured 10 Gs, but what about negative Gs? Well, negative Gs are the ones that make the blood go to your head. In what situations does this happen? Imagine flying a plane and pushing the controls instead of pulling them. But you're gonna make this movement with the plane. And what's going to happen is that since you're strapped to the seat, the same thing happens because of the law of inertia. You're going to want to keep going straight, and the blood inside your body will too, but you won't be able to because you're strapped to the seat. As I said, you'll turn and all your blood will rush to your head due to the law of inertia. These G-forces are more dangerous. In fact, the theoretical limit It's about 3, but as I mentioned, the F-16 pilot said he endured nearly 4 negative Gs. And if that doesn't seem like much to you, try holding a handstand for a while and you'll feel the blood rush to your head. It's honestly horrible. Now imagine 4 times that force. It's insane. You can quickly tell if it's positive or negative G at a glance. If your head is outside the curve, that's negative G. If your feet are outside, it's positive G. It makes sense, right? The centrifugal force pushes the blood outward. So if the farthest part from the center is your head, then all the blood will go to your head. And if what you have farthest away are your feet, then all the blood will go to your feet. Now let's talk about G-forces in amusement parks, since it's one of the places where you can experience them in the most extreme way. No danger, there isn't any. Well, I don't know if anyone watching this video will ever get to pilot a fighter jet, but honestly, I hope so. But since I know I'm never going to pilot a fighter jet in my life, amusement parks are a pretty nice alternative, right? In fact, you can experience all the types of G-forces we've talked about in the video. You can experience G-forces forward, backward, upward, and downward. 0 G. Just so you know, negative G-forces are the most dangerous in amusement parks, as people can only withstand very few. So, if they weren't careful when designing a ride, you could easily exceed human limits, even though they obviously will be. And, in fact, I'm convinced, okay? This is just my own thought. I don't know if it's true. I haven't really read anything about it, but I'm convinced that the height limits for tall people, they also exist, obviously, so you don't bump into anything, and that's perfect, we all know that. But it's also so you don't exceed the negative G limit, because the farther your head is from the seat, the more negative Gs you're going to feel. Well, now I'm gonna tell you something that's totally crazy. Fighter pilots, when they're flying close to the ground, okay? During training or an actual war, well, they usually prefer to fly close to the ground. For example, if there's a mountain, would you avoid being detected so easily by the radars on the other side of the mountain? They're usually camouflaged and dark, so you can't see them from above, making it better to fly low. They fly close to the ground, but imagine encountering a mountain. Well, what they often do is, instead of going straight underneath, they go up and then come back down, enduring negative Gs, okay? Because there you have to withstand negative Gs. Your head stays outside the turn and then you come back down. As they approach the mountain, they flip upside down to make the turn. To handle positive Gs, since negative Gs must be extremely uncomfortable. And so now we can understand why, when we're in a free fall motion, we're experiencing 0 G in all the environments I mentioned to you before, that there was some kind of G-force. It was always something in contact with you that produced this G-force. Do I make myself clear? Standing here, I'm experiencing 1 G because Earth pushes me down. But the ground is right beneath me, and it's keeping me from going down. It's pushing me up, generating 1 G. In the case of the Tesla video, is it the car seat that's pushing the phone forward? So when you're in free fall motion, there's nothing making your acceleration change. There's nothing pushing you. Every particle in your body is experiencing the acceleration. Hope you liked it, junkies. If that's the case, give it a like, subscribe, and Science Plumos.